around the world, hello. We've got so
Et donc
many
voilà.
things to share with you during this Digimon Con.
D'ailleurs, je viens de me
I
rendre
hope
compte
you're all
que,
enjoying it so far.
ouais, que je m'en ai un petit peu, que j'étais en
Next
train de
up
manger des
is the
chips.
Digimon Anime Corner, where we'll be
Et donc
sharing
voilà, donc
various
là,
topics
on
about the
enchaîne
Digimon
avec
anime series.
la suite de la Digimon Con avec tout simplement l'animé
And I'll be your host
Digimon,
today.
tout simplement.
I'm in charge of the Digimon
Et donc
movies.
voilà, donc ça va parler
but I still remember when I
actuellement un petit peu,
participated in
à
the
peu près
US
tous
event,
les animés
and
de
how I was
Digimon
absolutely
Adventure à
blown away by all
Digimon
the passionate Digimon
Ghost,
fans
le
who
dernier
came to
qui est
support
actuellement en
us.
cours de
It
diffusion
was an
au Japon et
amazing feeling.
même en France, voilà, sur ADN et Crunchyroll.
Then and now,
Et donc,
I'm
bah
always
voilà, on va
grateful
voir
that fans from around
cela
the
en
world enjoy
direct
Digimon.
de tout cela.
So, let's get started with someone I'm sure you all know. A producer from Toei Animation, Hiromi Seki. Welcome.
Hello, Digimon fans. I'm Hiromi Seki, a producer from Toei Animation. Starting with Digimon Adventure, I worked on 4 TV series
Ok,
and
donc en gros, c'est un peu
3
la
short to
productrice,
mid-length
j'ai
films,
l'impression,
you
de la série.
From Last Evolution Kizuna, that Kinoshita-san and I previously co-produced, I guess you could say I'm now more of an assistant to Kinoshita-san on various projects currently in development, right?
You're not an assistant, you're a super advisor.
Well, that's how we're involved. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, today Seki-san and I would like to discuss Digimon Adventure 02, the new movie, and information on the new work that Seki-san mentioned. For the second half, we'll look into Digimon Ghost Game that's currently on air, including a discussion with the 2 series directors on Digimon Tamers, which celebrates its 20th anniversary. So please, enjoy. All right, let's get going. We announced the production of the new Digimon Adventure 02 movie, but I'd like to take this opportunity to look back at the Digimon world with everyone. We made a simple video that summarizes the key points, so I'd like to show it to you first. You might be overwhelmed with nostalgia. Let's take a look. Roll it.
Ah bah tiens, une vidéo.
Thank you very much. You know, Seki-san,
Voilà,
I've seen
Digimon
so many clips and
Adventure
content these
2.
few years in preparation for
Voilà,
events and such that I don't
ça évoque
feel
un
very
peu quelques
nostalgic.
souvenirs quand même, mine de
How about
rien.
you?
Memories came flooding back for me. Like the Digi-Team Complete? And it's been forever since I saw Digimon Emperor or DNA Digivolution this clearly. This video also effectively covered key points, so my memory was able to go back 20 years.
That's great.
At my age, I need a little help to remember.
I'm glad it helped. There were actually many more points I wanted to cover, like the story in the last episode with Oikawa, Ken-chan and his brother, but I couldn't fit it all into a 2-minute video. I hope you can forgive me.
Franchement, en tant que
Of course.
productrice, ça a fait quand même...
We asked our
reçu pas
fans
mal
to
de
send us
choses.
questions they would like to ask
De rien.
Seki-san regarding Digimon 02 through the Digimon
mieux.
Partner fan site in advance.
Tant mieux.
So,
Après,
Seki-san,
je pense qu'elle a
could you
travaillé
answer
également
as
beaucoup
many
avec
questions
les
as you
autres ennemis
can
qu'on peut
as
voir
time
également au fond,
permits?
c'est-à-dire
Gladly.
Ghost également. Ah, tiens, question-réponse.
All right, I'd like to jump into the questions.
Ouais, c'est surtout beaucoup
We received so many comments
Digimon
from
Adventure
around the
2, hein.
world with fun-filled and passionate messages.
Là,
But please,
trop focus dessus.
understand that we had to edit some portions rather than leaving them as is. I'm very sorry, but we hope you understand it so we can fit in more questions. So, let's begin with this one. Question 1. It's from Ikutamon. Thank you for your question. In Digimon Adventure 02,
Alors, juste
I
pour
was
le dire,
impressed with Ken Ichijoji.
cette section-là de
regardless
l'anime,
of
ça
whether he
dure
was good or
une bonne
bad.
heure.
The more you look at
Voilà,
him,
ça dure une bonne heure.
the more you see the
Voilà,
darkness of
petite
human
précision.
nature, such as jealousy and inferiority complexes. I recall youth issues became more serious in the late 90s to early 2000s. But was this influenced by that? I'd like to know more about his story backbone.
I think Ikutamon has picked up on an interesting point about the creation of Ken Ichijoji. Various issues about the younger generation were highlighted in Japan as well. But what surprised me the most was an article in the newspaper about a 9-year-old boy who was admitted to a college in the US. I was simply amazed at what a genius he is,
Je me rappelle
thinking he
très
must
très
be
bien
very
de
special.
ce
To begin with,
Digisauveur empereur
Japan
finalement,
doesn't have this kind of system of
auquel
allowing
il fait plutôt
children
le
to
chaos.
skip grades, but even
Au
so,
début
I
de
did
Adventure
have
2,
that boy
après
in
voilà,
mind. I wondered
aura bien
what
changé,
his
mais,
future would be like. Of
je pense
course,
quand même qu'il a marqué les
he'd
esprits en
entered
vrai.
college because he's a genius, so he
Je tiens à
might
dire, c'est
do
vrai que
some sort of specialized
j'en tiens quand même un
research.
bon souvenir. C'est
But after all,
quelque chose
he's still only
de
a
bien en fait,
9-year-old boy.
ce Digimon Adventure 2.
He would
Franchement,
be spending his youth around
c'est peut-être
college
même
students who
l'une
drink,
des saisons que j'ai bien
smoke,
aimé en fait.
and hang out with
Ce sera
girls.
peut-être même la meilleure.
Normally, he would have made friends with
Je la trouvais
kids
bien
his own
sympa
age.
à suivre, moi
But
personnellement.
in this situation, he'd spend time with
Cette
older
saison-là, donc
students
ouais, c'était
very unlike
C'était
his
bien.
generation. Would college students ever consider a 9-year-old a friend? I got the feeling that as a 9-year-old, he was very smart, but he'd be very lonely. I thought he would carry a sense of loneliness that ordinary people like us couldn't begin to imagine.
I see.
When I create a character, those are the kinds of things I care about. I remember speaking with Mai Kawa-san and Genki Yoshimura-san about the article.
The two series creators.
I clearly remember speaking with the series creators and Kakudo-san.
Ah, I see. Children who progressed forward without interacting with others their age. That's pretty much Ken-chan right there. Plus, there's that history with his brother and how he couldn't say anything to those around him and simply moved forward.
That's right. That's why I try to incorporate such reality into the story of real children and events that occur in the real world.
All right. Here's the next question from Zero. On making 02, please share an anecdote about any difficulties you encountered or particular details you're glad you stuck with.
I'd like to talk about Digimon Hurricane that I made with the director Yamauchi-san. It's split into 2 parts, but it was almost going to be a single movie.
Ah, the cinema version.
That's right, the cinema version. I'm sorry it's not about the TV series, but I think Digimon fans probably saw the movie, so I'd like to share this. First, there was a movie called Digimon Adventure Our War Game, made by Hosoda-san. That was released either in March or April, but Hurricane came out that following summer. It's a summer movie, which is typically released in July. Do you realize how close those releases were? One in March and another in July? That's only 4 months. Suffice it to say, it's impossible to make a movie in 4 months. So I began working on the script earlier. The plot got the green light immediately. The company okayed it as well. Then, the script progressed with Reiko Yoshida and Yamauchi-san. We decided to work on the first draft in Chiba during an intensive scriptwriting workshop. We got to our lodgings, and we were all ready to get going. And then, just as we were about to dive into the script, I get a call from my boss at our company who said, "Seki, I don't know how to say this. Something about the script. It's not quite right."
Not the most welcome opener.
So, I reminded him, but you did look at the plot beforehand. And you did give the okay. I started working on it because I got the go-ahead. The biggest turnoff for him was that the story was too sappy, too depressing. What it came down to was a sad storyline would work as a spring release. But for a summer anime, it had to be more action-oriented, with more pop. So, on the day we were going to knuckle down on the first draft, I had to inform the others, "I'm sorry, but my boss just called and rejected the story." The director, scriptwriter, and even myself as I was saying this were all about to keel over.
Obviously.
At the lodge, we talked about ways to remedy the issue. We stayed that night, and the following day discussed what to do, then headed home. But actually, Reiko Yoshida and I had to whip up a new plot by Monday. But Reiko was exhausted, having just finished writing the rejected first draft. So I told her to take a break. Together with the producer, Sakurada-san, I think we wrote up 5 plots in one night that had to be handed in by Monday. There are others that I wrote without discussing it with anyone. I wrote up 2 or 3 plots. And Sakurada-san also wrote about 2 plots. The next morning, we turned the 5 plot lines into our boss.
I guess like sneaking in a few curveballs.
I've always loved mixing things in. Kind of like, here's the favorite, here's the dark horse, and here's what you wanted. See? It's action-packed. And about the rejected depressing plot, as a producer, I thought it was my duty to offer resistance and keep handing in melancholic plots. You know, as the on-site producer.
I can't speak for all of the fans in the
Bah,
audience,
franchement, quand on
but I
écoute,
thought Wallace's story
c'est vraiment un
was
plaisir.
plenty emotional. I mean, really depressing,
Bon,
so to
j'avoue que
speak, but
je commence
you're
vraiment à
saying
être
it was even
fatigué,
more
là.
so at the start.
As an
Comprendre
example to the
peu, mais
degree
bon,
of
voilà.
sentimentality, one plot had a Digimon monster come to the
C'est un peu
real
difficile
world
l'anglais à cette
to
heure-ci.
find its partner, which is so unusual. In the story, we had this idea of a Digimon coming to the real world among humans. While trying to find its partner, it feels desperately lost. That plot alone was interesting, and I wrote up both emotional scenes and action scenes, thinking it might get picked up. But the plot was a no-go.
Wow, I see. Actually, I would really like to see that.
Right? I do too. Of all the ideas that had to be tossed, there were parts that I really wanted to use. So then, I really think a producer's ability is demonstrated by how we can sneak things in without our boss knowing.
Thank you. Okay, on to the next question. This one is probably from a fan overseas, from I Love Eugene. In Digimon Adventure, the interaction between the main character and his parents left a big impression on me. Will this aspect be revisited in the new movie? Well, we can't give away too much about the new movie, but as far as the adventure series goes, relationships with parents has often been a common theme. What do you think?
Wow. The main characters are all elementary students whose lives revolve around either home or school. They do extracurricular activities or go to after-school cram schools. That's why for children, I think it's no different if we illustrate the characters at home or at school. This is why we chose not to limit the story setting at school. In Digimon Adventure, we wanted to properly showcase the characters' home life.
I see. That's why it was necessary to leave the digital world and return to the real world. That was a key element.
That's right. The characters spend only about a day in the digital world, but for kids watching the show on TV, I'm sure they would have wondered, wouldn't their parents or teachers worry about the children if they were separated from their families for such a long time?
You're right. Even with the fight at Odaiba in Adventure, they were with their parents. And in the final episode of 02, they were by their side. So, in that sense, when we portray children...
I think it's absolutely vital to show them.
Right. The parent-child relationship is an important factor. Thank you. All right. Let's head to the last question. This is from another fan from overseas. From Kirillian.
Il a l'air d'en avoir beaucoup des questions, moi je vous le dis.
Regarding the ending
Ah
of
bah tiens,
02, which is the world 25 years
voilà
later,
les différents films un peu.
many fans thought that made it difficult to make Try
On va parler un peu
or
de
Last Evolution
Digimon
Kizuna.
Adventure Tri ainsi que
But have you thought
Digimon
about changing
Last
the ending for
Evolution
02?
Kizumi.
I think this question is also directed at me, but what's your opinion, Seki-san? If you would have changed something, what direction do you think the series would have taken? You wouldn't think about changing the course of the story, right?
No. No one knows what might happen in the world, whether it be 2027, which was shown at the end of 02, or 10 years from now. Because look at how much all of our lives have completely changed in just these 2 or 3 years. It's 2022. But who's to say how the world will change in the next 5 to 6 years? So I illustrate what their lives might be like 25 years later, while hoping the best for them.
Right.
Yeah, so as a creator, I show what I hope it would be like for the characters 25 years later. But actually, there's only 5 years left until 2027. And in the meantime, who knows? Japan might sink into the ocean. Or wars might erupt around the world. In that case, Daisuke might not have a ramen shop anymore. Having a ramen shop might be an impossible luxury in such crisis. But I've never regretted showing a brighter future that I hoped would come true. Nor have I ever thought about changing it. But I'd like to say to the producers for the future Digimon series, a single tree has many branches from which leaves grow. With no leaves, there's no photosynthesis, and the tree itself cannot grow. So I think it's better to have a variety of branches and leaves. With that many more possibilities, it could reach the future of 02. And if the world is able to regain peace in the meantime, I'm sure they'll find that future.
Ah, I understand. You're right. You know, when you come to think about it, what we had in mind when we made Last Evolution was the possibilities of what might happen around the year 2010.
That separation that we illustrated in 2010 might have come as a great shock to some, but it was still only 2010 at the time.
There's still 17 years.
That's right. From that point, there's still 17 years until it's 2027. That's enough time for a newborn to grow into adulthood. That's why I think it's better not to think in such linear terms, but rather like a tree with its branches unfurled in various directions.
You'd have more fun watching it that way, right?
I think it would be more fun that way. And for those who watch that way, you might be able to imagine the new Digimon that have matured into various forms. So I hope that's how it turns out.
Thank you very much for your many questions and comments.
Thank you.
So,
Donc là,
now we
maintenant, on
have
aura
a
des
special treat
messages
for
en vidéo.
viewers. A video message.
From whom?
You'll find out.
Ça a changé un petit peu.
Here's the clip. Check it out.
In the year 2020 CE, the human world is connected by a network. That network is inhabited by an unknown life form called Digimon.
Hi! I'm Agumon. I finally found you, Tai. How do you know me? And what are you? And what is that? Don't worry, Tai. I got this. I'm gonna take these guys down. And I got your back! Finish him off, Agumon! This is crazy! Agumon! Digimon! We're gonna be the tightest team ever.
The adventure continues in a new world.
Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Zeno Robinson, and it is an incredible blessing to be able to say that I am the English voice of Tai in Digimon Adventure 2020. I know, it's crazy, right? This is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely unbelievable. I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful. I watched Digimon growing up as a kid. Like, I was a Saturday morning cartoon guy. Digimon was my thing. Me and my friends would sing the theme song on the playground. Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. So, like, this is a property that has grown up with me, that I grew up with, and it's a part of my foundation, and it is an incredible honor to be able to provide art for it as well. And yeah, I can't wait for you all to watch the dub. Please go check it out. It's gonna be so good. Everybody sounds so good. We're working so hard, and you know I'm gonna give it 150,000%. I am definitely trying to make this some of my best work. So please go check it out, and I will see you in the digital world. Peace.
Hey, what's up all you Digimon fans? My name is Ben Diskin, and I'm so proud to announce that I voice Agumon and all of his forms in Digimon Adventure 2020. Getting this role means so much to me because I'm basically pulling a reverse Chika Sakamoto. She was the voice of Agumon back in the 90s and then went on to voice Shoutmon in Digimon Cross Wars, or Digimon Fusion as we called it, and I'm basically going the opposite direction. I voiced Shoutmon in the original Digimon Fusion dub, and now I'm voicing Agumon, baby. So I can't wait for you guys to see this awesome new English dub. We've put so much heart and soul into this thing, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Welcome back to the digital world. Woo!
All right, thank you very much. We received these messages from the U.S. Right now,
C'est quand
they're
même assez
making the
chaud, hein, les
English
personnes,
version
hein, quand même.
of Digimon Adventure,
Surtout le
which
premier
aired
là.
in Japan in
Surtout
2020.
le premier.
So we had the voice actors, Zeno Robinson, who plays Tai, and Ben Diskin, who plays Agumon, send us their messages. For all of our fans in the U.S., watch out for more announcements to come.
It's great that both of them do such a wonderful job of capturing the feel of the characters, and their voices fit so naturally.
Definitely. And Zeno, the voice actor for Tai, said that he used to watch the show as a kid.
Amazing.
So he knows the character well.
He must.
Ben Diskin, who played the role of Shoutman in Digimon Fusion, the same character Chika-san played, but this time he's playing the role of Agumon and gave us such a message. Even overseas, Digimon has seen such an amazing and varied evolution.
Some that watched the show as kids have grown up to become voice actors, right? I'm sure the kids who watch the show growing up will also be the next generation of Digimon creators joining our company.
Right. Digimon is quite popular in many countries around the world. So, there's a lot to look forward to.
This is really exciting.
Yeah.
Ah, des informations
So, wrapping things
sur
up,
les
we've had a look
prochains
back at Zero Two,
films.
but we can't quite end things without at least briefly touching on the new work. Seki-san, in addition to working on the script of Last Evolution, you also worked on the Zero Two movie. You can see the poster right behind us. And now, let's take this opportunity to share one illustration with you. Here, take a look. Here we have a rough illustration of the main character, Daisuke Motomiya. Since it's an early illustration, the design will likely change in the end. Still, we have this opportunity, so we wanted to share it with you. What do you take from this, Seki-san?
I feel like it's probably winter?
Right. Daisuke's wearing a down jacket.
Yes, he's wearing a down jacket, but I feel like he'd wear this in any season, whether spring or fall. Hard to tell.
How about his other outfit?
Well, I'm absolutely certain this shows that Daisuke has given up on his ramen shop and decided to become a sushi chef.
Wait, we did work on the script together, right?
Yes, we did. But you can never tell what'll happen until you see the director's storyboard, right?
Yes. Some people like to change things.
Yes, they do. With ideas from way out of left field. I'm with you on that point.
So, the next movie takes place in 2012. Since Daisuke seems like he's in winter clothes, maybe it's winter. Plus, we see him in clothes for a ramen shop, so maybe that's a key point.
Pour l'instant, pas d'annonce. Pour l'instant.
So he's working at a ramen shop.
Come on. You know, don't you?
Yes, I do,
But you're not quite sure right now.
maybe you're right.
So, that's all that we can share with you about the new movie today.
You're holding back, aren't you?
Yes, I'm holding back a little because I'm thinking maybe we might be able to share another video with you later this year.
For me, personally, I'd be happy to share a bit at a time. Like a minute here and maybe the remaining 2 minutes next month. Oh, come on. Even if it's just only little by little.
Okay, I'll think about it. In any case, I'd really like everyone to look forward to this as well.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Seki-san, thank you for your time today.
It was my pleasure.
This is the end of the Digimon Adventure 02 Corner. But after this, we have a Q&A panel with two directors Seki-san knows well. Masatoshi Chioka from Digimon Ghost Game and Yukio Kaizawa from Digimon Tamers are coming up. Let's tune in together. Chioka-san,
Ghost.
Kaizawa-san, take it away.
Voilà.
Enjoy!
Thank you.
Et ça y est. Et ça va, voilà.
Hello,
Double interview.
I'm
Ok.
Masatoshi Chioka,
Digimon
series
Ghost.
director working
Maintenant.
on Digimon Ghost Game.
Digimon
Since
Ghost
it's
Game.
currently on air, there are some things we
Et après, il y aura
can't
sur
discuss yet,
Digimon
but I hope to
Tamers.
share other info.
Voilà, saison 3 en gros. Hein. Voilà.
I'm Yukio Kaizawa, a
Voilà, bah,
director
Tamers,
from
ouais,
Toei
c'est vraiment une
Animation.
double interview.
With
en fait.
Digimon Tamers reaching its 20th year, I wonder if fans still remember. And I'm a bit
Double
worried about my
interview.
own memory too. So it would be great to reminisce together. My comments may have changed from the TV series 20 years ago, but please look at it as Tamers digivolving within me as well. I hope you enjoy our talk today.
The Digimon series thus far is, after all, Digital Monster. I think it's a work with
Bon,
strong
alors là,
monster
c'est sûr qu'il y
genre
aura
aspects,
aucune annonce.
but Ghost
Genre
Game
vraiment
focuses on the strange phenomena
Voilà.
caused by the Digimon. The story structure focuses prominently
A noter que vous pouvez
on
suivre
mystery and horror,
Digimon Ghost
and after the
Game
monster element enters.
sur ADN et Crunchyroll. Hein,
So,
voilà.
for the script,
Le
I'm
prochain
writing from
épisode
a
arrive
different
dans
perspective
4 heures
than
très
the previous
précisément.
installments.
Non, même pas 3 heures. Dans 3 heures.
The story revolves around the three main characters, Hiro, Ruri, and Kiyoshiro. But it's also about the relationship with Gamamon, Angoramon, and Jellymon. So I hope to show something new and fun
Bon, là, il
as the
explique
story
l'histoire, en
progresses, such as their developing relationships with these Digimon. As mentioned earlier, another highlight would be the different facets, different ways the Digimon are handled, compared to previous monster genre styles. For this series, the actions of Digimon cause mysterious things to happen. Compared to previous works, I think this series zooms in on the strange phenomena, which can bring about surprising, unexpected factors, and show a new side of Digimon. So, if you can enjoy this variation, I think you can also find different perspectives to be fun. For Digimon Tamers, I was the assistant director for Kaizawa-san, who's next to me now. But I also managed the character settings for the Digimon series at the time.
Ah, voilà, ça parle de Digimon Tamers, hein, voilà.
And in
Avec
the end,
les,
it was
les
like
Digimon,
fate.
tout simplement, qui sont
I
dans cette
began
saison 3.
directing the Digimon Tamers storyboards from, I think, episode 48 onwards. So, this was my directorial debut.
Digimon Tamers started in the early 2000s. So that's when search engines like Google and Yahoo became popular. So at the time, it was really hard for me to understand all this net jargon, the system, and how this whole internet thing worked. The most difficult point was figuring out how to alternate the expanding online world with the digital world. So we structured the digital world like this. Global data from the human world became the central main line in the Digimon world, shining like the sun. Data that overflows from the main line piles up to form the digital world. As you know, the internet is the continual copying of data memory. So even if you press delete, data is never completely gone. It just signals that it's okay to overwrite that part. From there, more and more data accumulates, which increases exponentially with the expanding network. It was hard to formulate the digital world version of this network process, but we finally came up with the
que dans
present
Digimon
image.
Tamer, contrairement aux autres saisons de l'époque, bien sûr, les Digisauveurs ont mis énormément de temps, énormément d'épisodes avant d'arriver dans le Digimon. Ça c'est vrai que c'est un truc qu'on peut le dire, qu'ils ont mis énormément de temps.
Regarding items characters use,
énormément.
Pedicure, for example,
Et je pense que Extra qu'on a
had
vu, c'est
cute
quand ils arrivaient en
accessories
gros,
targeted for girls
ils ont
that
quitté enfin leur
children
monde
would be happy to wear.
pour essayer de rejoindre le Digimon, donc voilà.
But with boys,
Et donc là ça
I
parle un
think
peu
it's a bit
des
different. Like the goggles Takato
Digisauveurs.
wears. It didn't seem right to have him wear something just as decoration. If an item can't be used, it's not interesting. So I came up with using some sort of eye protection when they go between the real and digital worlds. Rika and Henry wear sunglasses. So I was rather particular about item use. Ah, the opening sequence. The opening is the face of the work, so I try to work the theme into it, especially for the first half. As you can see, the kids turn around. At that point, you wonder what's ahead, what's in their line of sight. Then you realize that the children can see the traces of Digimon lurking about the city, including the concept that anyone can become a tamer. I introduced the fun aspect, that anyone can see the Digimon by paying close enough attention. All anime openings follow a similar pattern, where the tempo increases and there's a battle scene from the middle part. I wanted to depict a day in the life of a tamer in these fight scenes. For instance, by overlapping the silhouette of Takato's and the Digimon's calm everyday life on the fight scene, it shows that tamers aren't constantly in battle, but also enjoy their carefree daily lives. So we show both sides by combining them into one. That's what I aimed for in the middle part. Also, you can't see the Digivolution scene in the main episode, But as a bit of fun, I added a Digivolving image from the rookie period that kind of overlaps with Digivolutions. I think I've depicted the digital world fairly realistically. On profoundness and theme, I guess I wanted to convey realism, sensory or otherwise. Like, Takato plays with Gilmon, like Gilmon is a true friend. I really wanted to share that experience with the audience, so they could get a feeling of what it would be like if the Digimon were actually there. With that starting point, the children grow up. While following their drama, in the end, the story follows through to the death scenes of Jerry and Leomon. So what we did is, by delving into each character and carefully portraying their background, we were able to express their depth even more. So of course, the reality of the digital world is a key aspect, but the dramatic depth and gravity is just as appealing in this series.
Je pense qu'à l'époque, il y en a qui ont un petit peu pleuré, hein, voilà. À cette époque-là.
I saw a bit of Digimon Ghost, and I thought Chioka-san's point of view was great. And speaking of view, it reminded me of how the human eye can only focus at the center with a fuzzy peripheral vision, but we feel as if we've captured the overall view. This is possible because people have subjective vision, meaning they supplement the fuzzy parts with their accumulated data and past experiences. And that kind of bias affects us mentally as well. For instance, when you see abusive comments on social media, that could make you feel scared of the digital world. Then, I thought that emotional fear could manifest like a ghost in the digital world. So in the world of social media, I feel it wouldn't be strange at all for Digimons to exist there. In that aspect, I thought Digimon Ghost picks up on a really interesting point. No wonder. It's directed by Chioka-san. I'm excited to see how the story is going to develop.
D'ailleurs, moi j'ai pas regardé tous les épisodes encore. Faut vraiment que je regarde la suite.
So, there's a combination of three people. There's Takato, who is quite gentle, and Gilmon, who is laid back. At the other end, there's Rika, who's rather strict and is a sore loser. With her is Rinamon, who is serious and reserved. Kind of in between, you could say, would be Henry and Terriermon. And we're not quite sure what Terriermon is going to do. So those were the three sets of characters. So regarding the characters' personalities, at the start, each character made one-sided requests about what they wanted. Like, I want this kind of friend, or I want this kind of partner. But as the story progresses, they begin to understand and respect each other. And when the Digimon finally digivolve, their minds and bodies become one. Considering this story content, when we looked at the character settings, we needed to make sure the three sets of characters were all different. So that's how we composed the characters.
Well, of course, Character settings were naturally the first step in the planning stage for Digimon Ghost Game as well. So, for this particular series, I thought about what direction we should take in developing the relationships between the children and the Digimon. And the first thing that came up was 3 humans and 3 Digimon. I was really determined to stick to that composition, where all 6 characters would be main characters. So what that means is that both the children and the Digimon would be on equal ground. Neither is reliant on the other, and no one is treated like a pet. I really thought that this was a very important aspect from the start. So, with everyone on the same level, the way the characters talked was another big focus point. So, when talking with the Digimon side, the children don't talk down to them, and I intentionally made the Digimon, as seen with Jellymon, talk as an equal to, or even superior to humans. I really wanted to make this a new aspect for this work, and so the rough character idea was set. Of course, each character has their own strengths and weaknesses. Regarding Hiro's background, it was part of his original setting that his mother is off working overseas, while his father is slightly irresponsible and lazy. So, with that kind of family dynamic, he became a dependable kid who always took care of his father. And Rudy is somewhat of an influencer on social media. So, how did Rudy and Hiro get to know each other? Well, Digimon is their common point. And without it, they probably wouldn't have ever met. And I thought the idea of connecting 2 children from different worlds who would never meet in normal circumstances was interesting. So, after thinking about Ruri and Hiro, I wondered what kind of character Hiro's senpai Kiyoshiro would be. In this series, the setting is a dormitory, and Kiyoshiro is the dorm leader. Although he's older, he's a bit eccentric, and the others are annoyed by him at first. Initially, Hiro, Ruri, and Kiyoshiro don't know each other, but they meet through the Digimon. And from there, I plan to create a story where these new relationships develop and deepen. So that's how the character settings were done, for 3 humans and 3 Digimon.
C'est bien un peu d'avoir tous ces points de vue.
The Digivolution Bank is like the main face of Digimon. It's what the children are looking forward to the most. So I think each director stresses over it. And yes, I gave it a lot of thought as well. But I think the first impressions, first ideas that come up are important. I'm sure some can relate to this, but what popped up in my head was the emergence of insects. Emergence, where caterpillars become butterflies. The caterpillar transforms while it is in the chrysalis, and when it breaks free, a butterfly emerges. Its body completely changes into something with different characteristics and abilities. In addition to this surprising factor, what came to my mind was how insects risk everything in this process of transformation. As the Digivolution of Digimon is also difficult, I wanted to reflect that critical moment of change, expressing something that could be life-threatening. As the outer layer of the Digimon's skin peels off, a new body is formed inside, but in that moment, it looks as though it's painful. I wanted to add a sense of danger when digivolving Digimon, where doing so may risk their own lives. There's also card slices with the Digivice items. The cards Bandai has come up with are interesting, where a single thin card can't digivolve by itself. You need to divide them into multiple layers. I wanted to show kids that a single thin card has a complex structure with a lot of data. And as I mentioned earlier, the Digimon risk their lives for this.
Qui se renouvelle, on peut le dire à peu près.
I completed the Digivolution
chaque
scenes
saison,
by detailing the uniqueness of the items and digital medium.
Chaque fois, t'as à peu près un nouveau truc.
For the Digivolution scenes, the flow leading up to each one is related to the character setting. Digimon Ghost Game doesn't deal with the so-called master and servant relationship. I mean, they are equals after all. So then, what does it mean to digivolve? Well, it's when the feelings of both the Digimon and humans are aligned, when they are in sync. The Digivolution Bank and Digivolving scenes are based on the concept that the Digimon digivolve because they want to.
C'est un peu le seul animé dans lequel c'est peut-être un peu moins intéressant les
Of course, it's only natural
comme,
to want to digivolve
Digimon,
in order to get
Retrouvez-moi.
yourself out of trouble. For rookie or champion stages, it's
C'est vrai, ils
difficult to
ont
break
pas
through.
du tout parlé de
So, while humans would definitely have a growth period to go through, Digimons can instantly pass this stage through Digivolution. Through Digivolution, Digimon can attain a new form.
Ils en ont pas du tout parlé.
As a result,
Tout comme la
this
saison
part of
4
their
de
growth
Digimon,
is
c'est qu'il est arrivé
different from
après
before.
ta mère.
It's like climbing up to a different stage.
Je me rappelle plus de son nom.
What I really wanted to
Digimon
do
Data Squad,
was
je crois,
to
quelque
fully
chose comme ça.
portray these elements.
Ils n'ont pas du tout parlé.
The
Hein.
main concept for the current
J'ai
Digivolution
l'impression qu'ils n'ont même
system
pas du tout en parlé dans
was
cette
all about effectively portraying
Digimon Con,
the
même pas
Digimon's
d'extrait, rien.
emotions.
C'est vrai que je pense que c'est des saisons
Well,
très
the show is
spéciales,
still
pas très
currently on
appréciées,
air,
peut-être même.
so I can't really talk about
Donc
what's
voilà.
going to come. But I can say we're creating a unique series by giving the Digimon the initiative to digivolve. I really hope we can convey that through the Digivolution scenes.
Bon là, on commence à arriver un peu
Digimon
sur la fin
are,
des
after
questions,
all,
petit à petit.
monsters.
Sur les dernières questions.
They sort of resemble wild animals, don't they? This may seem unrelated,
Bon, en tout cas, ça
but
aurait été bien
I'd like
sympa.
to share this interesting story.
Ouais.
I'm originally from Nagano Prefecture.
Cette session
My
questions-réponses
father
sur les
loved going into the mountains to
l'animé.
gather mushrooms,
Enfin, on peut dire les
bamboo
animés parce
sprouts,
que là,
and other things.
plusieurs qui sont
One time,
sortis.
he told me he saw a cute bear cub. So cute, in fact. He wanted to bring it home with him. Suddenly, he sensed danger. He realized the mother bear came back for her cub. His gut told him that he could be attacked by the mother bear. So he left the mountain immediately. This story tells me that even wild animals are really cute when they're little, but their instincts rapidly take over as they grow, and they become wilder and wilder. From that point of view, I was able to envision the Digimon as something like wild children, so it wasn't too difficult to portray that. Still, they're Digimon, so they're made up from the accumulation of data. When their abilities mature, or when their instincts entirely come up to the surface, they're digital beings. So their reactions and development would be completely different from wild animals. I feel that was a difficult aspect to determine, which required a lot of brainstorming and creative ideas.
Okay, so the question is it difficult to create the Digimon with both animal and childlike characteristics? Well, it's not that difficult to anthropomorphize or give them human characteristics. But, as Kaizawa-san just mentioned, there are things we have to figure out first. You need to think about the type of creature it is and what behavioral traits it may have. It needs to have traits like a child, but we can't really treat it like a human child. So with Gamamon, as an example, we need to think about what sort of environment he would live in and how he would respond. In comparison to the digital world, how would they react when they enter the human world? While thinking about these things, if I don't focus on the right points, I end up writing scenarios about Digimon who are like human children, and that just doesn't work. Digimon don't follow the same principles as in the human world, nor do they think like humans. They have entirely different values. So, if you have 10 Digimon, then you'd have 10 with their own unique ideas of reality, 10 different ways of thinking. I write scenarios with the premise that these creatures are completely different from humans, and direct them accordingly. That may sound easy, but this part is quite difficult. When I act as series director, I try to have more character expression sheets on hand compared to other works. I don't limit myself to just samples of facial expressions, but also like to have motion sheets. The main objective is figuring out how to bring the characters to life. Of course, the more materials you have, the more inspired directors can be, and the more animators can gauge how far they can go. They'll say, oh, it's okay to go up to this point. And then the characters become clear. Anime isn't made by one person. Many people are involved. That's why we need to prepare a lot of resource materials, like character sheets with various facial expressions, to help enhance their imagination. Then it's up to directors, animators, assistant directors, and the entire staff to bring the characters to life. With that in mind, the character designer has a bigger workload. But I always request more facial expressions for each character. Especially with Digimon, unlike humanoid figures, there are a lot of varying facial shapes that need to be figured out and molded. I always like to have character sheets with multiple expressions. So, in answer to the question, the physical aspect may not seem that difficult. But if you focus on the basic concept, it's actually a very difficult process.
Et voilà ce qui va un peu conclure cette session animée Digimon. Voilà, en tout cas, et on va passer au prochain segment qui sera le TCG Digimon. Allez hop.